Good morning and welcome to Today in L.A. My name's Mike Amos. He's Bill Rice Jr. And it is already we're moving forward toward, it'll be June before we know it.
Well, it's Tuesday. You know, my wife is a school teacher. And
I was wondering, is she out of school yet?
Well, I said, this is your last Tuesday of the school term. You know, then yesterday was the last Monday.
And she'll get a kick out of that, won't she?
So I think their last day is Thursday in Troy City schools.
Yeah. Of course, everybody's getting ready. So many people, what they call Beach Week. Everybody heads to the beach, and
it's going to be hot as blue blazes.
Oh yeah, but it's still everybody's out of school now, and of course graduations will be. I don't have the actual time or date yet. I need to get that sometime today on when everybody's going to be graduating. But congratulations to them wherever they are. Last night, the Tip Collie Awards were handed out, and boy, what a great program it was. Mike Turk, former Troy University All-American football player, two-time All-American, was the speaker. And I told him last night, I said, Mike, if I'd only known you were going to speak, I could have filled it up. Well, they filled it up even after that.
Mike won the Division II equivalent of the Heisman Trophy his senior year.
And, of course, Tip Collie, there's a picture of Tip Collie in the program. And the program's really well designed. They've used this design for a long time, and it's been great. And, of course, Tip was a friend of everybody's. Of course, he's a good friend of your daddy's and a friend of me. Every Sunday morning, at Baraka, we'd eat donuts and talk. And
you know who I gave him his nickname?
No.
I think. I might be wrong. My grandfather, Hickey Chapman, talking about nicknames.
Yeah, Did they grow up together?
They did. They were in the same class, I think. And
lived right down the street from each other.
Yeah, I think the story was Hickey said one time, watch out, everybody. Here comes Tip Top Collie. And then after that, he was Tip Collie.
Well, it's a picture of him. Tip Collie left without a helmet. That's him without a helmet. Played tackle for Howard University Bulldogs here in Legion Field. The inaugural game against Birmingham Southern. He played in the first college game ever played, or first game ever played at Birmingham's Legion Field.
How about that? That's great trivia.
And then here's a picture of him right here. And, of course, Dr. Collie in 1922, Dr. Collie moved to Troy from Enterprise with his parents. Dr. J.O. Collie Sr., a minister, served as superintendent of the Alabama Baptist Children's Home. So now you know how rough and tough Tip and Judson and
well, his daddy was the reason the Alabama Baptist Children's Home became such a great institution.
Yeah, exactly right. They moved from Evergreen, I want to say.
That's right. That's in Dad's
Davis Grocery, this is Dave speaking.
Hi, morning.
All right, where are you calling from, sir?
Drayton Beach, Florida.
You are, okay.
100. It's about to be 10,000.
Oh, me, really, yes. The Beach Week is starting very quickly.
Batten down the hatches.
No
I think Beach Week's already started. There's a lot of people down here.
Yeah. Well, of course, most of the Troy schools, I think, are going to be in, till Wednesday or
Thursday, I think.
Thursday. And a lot of the kids that are expecting to graduate, they're already gone pretty much. And last night we had the Tip Collie Awards, and they were outstanding. And yesterday afternoon, they had a big celebration on the Pike Liberal Arts baseball team.
I saw that on WSFA News.
And that was live. They did it live from downtown. We did it live from downtown Troy, and we got to interview all the players, and we'll be running that on the show.
Well, I found out that from watching WSFA that Pike Liberal Arts had 7 seniors this year. So if they can repeat next year, three-peat with losing 7 seniors, that would really be something.
Yeah, no question about it. Of course, you know, those boys, Tip, of course, was the oldest, and then Jesse Hall, and then Judson. I don't know if Judson was older than Jesse Hall or not. And then Matt, that's Cheryl, the sheriff's daddy, you know.
And Jennifer's daddy.
And Jennifer's daddy, and Matt had all those girls, and all of them were majorettes pretty much,
And Matt and Tip married sisters.
that's right. And of course they lived. They were farmers. Weren't they farmers?
I don't know what.
I think they were, and of course Emery Palmer was their cousin, I think.
You know where I saw them all the time was Hickey Chapman had a trailer at Collie Pond in Union Springs, where a lot of people in Troy fish up there.
Oh, great place.
And so I've fished there 100 times.
Oh, big bull brim.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was fun. And
so
that green, that
so you would
water
see
had-
all the collies at Collie Pond
yeah.
fishing.
And one thing about College Pond that I always remember, of course, they fertilized it quite a bit. You never could see, what I'm saying. It wasn't clear. It was a green, a real pretty
Yeah.
green, and but you couldn't see the fish.
Boy, you had a lot of snakes and snapping turtles in that pond.
Yeah, well, hey, there's snakes pretty much everywhere.
Let me tell you a story. One time I was fishing with Dad. He loved to fish, and they briefly had a trailer up there, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And one time I was playing with the brim hook, where you put all your brim after you catch them. Had about 30 on there, and dang if I didn't drop it, the little brim basket. And dang if my dad doesn't dive into that old snake-infested pond and go to the bottom and get those, brim.
Get those brim? Are you serious? Because Tip and Jesse Hall, of course, were doctors, and Judson owned the Chevrolet dealership, and Matt worked with the federal government. All great guys. Oh, Matt and I were good friends too, and he was the younger ones, but their dad raised them at the children's home. Of course, he was superintendent, but and most all of them went off to school and so forth. And
Jennifer's older brother Matt is I think he's a pharmacist in
that's right.
Prattville or somewhere.
That's right, sure was, no question about it.
There's only one brother in there, and then all the rest are girls.
Matt's bunch, you're right, there's a bunch of them, but now Tip had, she had Helen and Carla and,
Jim?
what, who?
Jim Colley?
Not Jim, Jim Colley,
Dr.
Jim
Colley.
Colley, and of course, our buddy that played at Auburn, from right here in Charles Henson High School.
Tip's grandson, one of his grandsons.
So which one started Beach TV down here? That's Judd, isn't it?
That's Judd. Now that was Judson's son, Judd. Yeah.
One of Tip's grandsons is William Johnston,
Yeah, that's right.
and William is real good buddies with Bo Cephas. Hank
Yeah,
Williams
he's worked
Jr.
for both Cephas for a long time, and of course I tell you who was there.
Yeah, Bo Cephas is missing his grandpa's shotgun and is offering a $6,000 reward. I'm reading that right now.
Oh man, what did he lose it down here? Or where did he lose it?
He lost it in Coleman at his cabin on Smith Lake.
Does he?
But Hank Jr.'s got a place in Coleman
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah. Mike.
Well, go and tell everybody who won the Collie Award.
All right, we will. We will, and of course, he doesn't run very far from the trough either, because his dad. We're talking about Max Copeland was the
Recipient.
the male recipient of the award, and of course the Tip Collie Award is one of the more prestigious awards given every year, and there were several runner-ups, and one of them was Trevor Barron. He was one of the runner-ups, and both these kids went to Pike Liberal Arts, and of course Max Copeland with the scholarship, and since he's going to Troy to school, he gets another $1,500 scholarship, so his scholarship's going to be about $3,000 or $4,000, so it's not bad. And of course, his granddaddy Jimmy Copeland worked for Troy Cable, one of the big wigs with Troy Cable, and I know he's awfully proud. And the person that won on the girls' side, Lydia Harrison from Goshen High School, won the girls' side, and Madison Johnson was one of the runner-ups, and also I want to say Emma Kirkpatrick. I want to say she was one of the runner-ups too, and the other they had 2 additional runner-ups, and I think that's the way it worked. And I think Lawson Scarborough was another one that did get.
Turn the page there. I want to see the first year they did this, because I was involved.
Yeah, you're going to like this.
1992.
1992, it was Jonathan St. John and Melissa Thompson. Let's see where these guys are today.
Well, look at number 2.
Yeah, that is a good question.
All right, let's see where these are today. And, of course, Jonathan St. John and Melissa Thompson. We know where Melissa is.
Yeah.
She's out here at Sarah, and does a great job. One of the head honchos out there. Now, that's not anything derogatory, honchos or whatever. That means that she's got a big position with them. How about John Ramage, the president of First National Bank of Troy Brundage? And he was there last night. Judy Neal, you remember Judy, Mike, 93?
No. Judy is a...
doctor, isn't she?
She's a nurse practitioner in Whitefish, Montana.
Wow.
Has done very well. Ronald Harper.
Extremely smart.
Now, I don't know Ronald Harper, but I know Jody Ellis in 94. In 95, Al Renfro was the winner.
And his son's one of the players on the Pike Liberal Arts
That's right.
State Championship team.
That's right.
Al Renfro will have to go down as Jay Jeffcoat's favorite player of all time.
Oh,
he was
really?
like Coach Jeffcoat's son, I remember.
He was on that team that won the World Series in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
That's right, baseball. Yeah, that's right. And 95, Stacy Beard, the great Stacy Beard, who later on was a cheerleader at Alabama. And
like her sister, Corbin.
Stacy lives in...
Doesn't live far from you, does it?
Rosemary Beach down here with Reynolds Henderson.
Yeah, and of course Stacy, Ben Beard, and John Beard's daughter. And, there were 2 of those girls.
When it comes to Stacy Beard and Reynolds Henderson and Stacy got married, I guess maybe 16, 17 years ago, but the funny story is Reynolds grew up on the same property where Stacy grew up as well. They had that land before, I guess, Mr. Beard developed
when Mr. Beard bought it,
their house out there. That's where they lived originally.
That's right. And when Mr. Beard bought it, they bulldozed a very nice house to build another house.
Yeah, I remember that.
A nicer house.
Yeah, and of course, let's move on. This is fun. In 1996, Jonathan Kane and Candace Carter. Well, you know who Candace Carter is, don't you, Mike?
She's one of the all-time great beauties of Troy, but she's a very talented photographer these days.
Well, David Nelson.
And, David Nelson is, they've got a son coming up that is going to be a great one, man. I tell you, I saw him the other day, Mike, and he's going to be big like his daddy. I didn't think he would be, but he is. He's a left-handed pitcher. Mike with Holt Steed and this young Drew Nelson. When they play next year, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be the 2 best left-handers in the state. I'm talking about the state of Alabama. Those 2, wouldn't you think those 2 are going to be great pitchers, Mike?
Oh, sure, they'll bring in some other kids, too.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, they've got other kids, but I told Coach Condren yesterday.
I hope you didn't call him Coach Condren.
No, I call him Alan what is his name? Ponder, excuse me, Coach Ponder. Coach Ponder and I talked yesterday, and I said, Coach, you got a pretty good start because you're going to have the best 2 left-handed pitchers in the state next year, and they will. Pitching, it has a lot to do with it, you know.
I think so, yep. I know that much about baseball.
And Candace Carter's still a beautiful young lady, and she was the Tip Collie Award winner in 1996. In 1997, Tamaris Deveridge and Amanda Gerald was the female winner. And I'm sure...
Look, the next year was
I can't
George
remember. What are
Graham.
the qualifications of the Tip Collie? Is there anything to do with athletics, or is it just...
Yeah, it's athletic, academics, and Christian...
Leadership.
You know, it's a Christian...
I guess Amanda Gerald was a cheerleader.
The next year, Joy Graham won on the girls' side, and boy, what an illustrious family that is, the Graham family.
A lot of girls.
She's the athletic director at a little place It's called Liberty Park Middle School.
She was a fantastic person.
Well,
You know, when I
girls-
had the Troy Citizen, I got to know all these kids because my big beat was the schools, and there were just certain students that stood out and that were.
You remember how many girls were there? 4 or 5?
5.
5 beautiful girls, no question about it. Jared McClendon was 1998. He's a banker with the First National Bank,
That's
I
right.
believe.
He was a
And Joey
offensive
Graham,
lineman
of course,
for Charles
yeah.
Henderson High School. I remember him well.
1999 was Sean Kirby.
Doc Kirby's son.
Yeah, and then 1999 Leah Sperlin. She was a good athlete. In 2000, Aaron Roscoe. Rasco, and you know we lost Dr. Rasco not long ago. He was a great guy. And hey, the great Lauren Stone, she's still around Troy now.
She goes to First Methodist Church with me, yeah.
And has been very successful. 2001 was Scott Stetson.
Rick Stetson's son.
That's right. In 2001, Sharika Johnson was a girl recipient. In 2002, Bradley Lilly. And Mike, in 2002, Anna Garrett. She lives down there, too.
Anna lives down here on the beach on 30A.
Yeah.
Dr. Steve Garrett's daughter.
That's right. In 2003, Keon Simmons. And 2003, Christy Sellers. In 2004, Alex Sanders. In 2004, Savannah Hughes. In 2005, Cody Ash was a recipient of the Tip Collie Award. And in 2005, Ashton Spann. You know, I see her quite often. And then in 2006, Judson Ricks. And 2006, Chrissy Meeks were the winners. In 2007, Jonathan Bryant. In 2007, Caroline Sunday. Of course, she lives up in Birmingham now. 2008, Harold Carswell. And 2008, the girl recipient was Sarah Sellers. In 2009, Philip Quincy. In 2009, Erica Henderson. Now we're running out of people that y'all know. Is that right?
Well, I moved away from Troy, I think, in 2003, so a lot of these are new to me.
2010, Parker Smith and Edie Pinkett. Parker used to work for us here.
He's the boy supply liberal arts.
Yeah, that's right. Parker's a fine young man. 2011, Wesley Davis. 2011, Emily Melton. 2012, Josh Starling.
That must be Buddy's, one
Yeah,
Buddy's
that's right,
children.
one of Buddy's children. And 2012, Allison Warwick. 2013, Jared Maddox. In 2013, Olivia Hudson. 2014, Jacob Bensinger. 2014, Sarah Saunders. 2015, Austin Ingram. How good was he? 2015, Kalen Barron. 2016, Hayes Lee. And 2016, Lakin Malden. 2017, Anthony Glover. 2017, Lindsey Fox. And 2018, Brock Snyder. And 2018, Abby Barron. And I'm still going.
You go to every single one of those events and interview every single one of these kids.
Hey, every one of them, my friend, every one of them.
How about that?
How much did you get paid to do that?
That doesn't concern you, son.
Absolutely free.
That doesn't concern you. Let's just say this: I have represented Troy Cable many, many times.
That would be a trivia question to find out. Thousands and thousands.
Exactly, over the years, and I've gotten rich doing it, Mike. Gotten rich.
What was your first time ever on Troy Cable? You remember? Was it doing a football game?
Well, we started doing the
It
football.
was
Bogey Vision.
Harold doing the first football game. I was there.
KT Cole and I partnered up, and we did a lot of them together. And Harold Freeman and I were friends. He was a good friend of my daddy's, and I always knew Harold. And Harold got his start at Right Price Appliance Store in downtown Troy, right where your office used to be.
The Troy Citizen used to be.
Yeah, right along in there. There was a big building right
Next
there.
to Cinco Drugs or something like that?
And Right Price Appliance Store sold appliances and TVs. And first TV I ever saw was in the window there at Right Price. Well, one of the owners, one of them was Collins, Harold Collins was one owner, and the other one was
Harold
Harold Freeman, yeah. And Harold was a technical guy, and he knew how to fix stuff and knew all about technical things during the war. And he learned it when he was overseas. And, you know, he was also a big guy that had the big antennas and had the walkie-talkies and talked to people all over the world. Well, what kind of was that?
shortwave radio.
The shortwave. Yeah, Harold was big in shortwave, and he had friends all over the country. So he was a technical guy.
Yeah, always was.
And then, you know, of course, they started a cable television network, and several of the business people here in town, Bob Talbot was one of them.
My uncle Bill Chapman was.
Yeah, Bill Chapman, I'm sure he was very involved in it. And then they sold out, and there was a non-compete clause there for a while. And then after the non-compete clause went away, Harold went into the cable business
by himself.
And during that time, and if this sounds like I'm bragging, I'm just telling you a fact, I used to visit with him some, and I'd say, Harold, you know, they had all these 2 or 3 other big cable companies already here, you know, the big guys.
The big one was Charter.
Yeah, Charter, big guy.
I thought it was Store back then, but might be Charter.
And he started the cable with it, you know, very small, and I told him, I said, Harold, I tell you what, you start showing ball games, little league games, you start going beauty pageants, and,
high school football games,
and high school football games.
That's where Pike County watches itself.
Yeah, the Bogey Vision was where Pike County watches itself. You're right, and we started going everywhere and doing these ball games and putting the camera on somebody and getting young Bill Rice and
parades.
His mama said, I gotta see that, but I'm not on Troy Cable. What should I do? Join Troy Cable. So once they joined all the Little League games, that big tournament in
South Carolina, y'all traveled up to South Carolina.
Wiley Sanders flew us up there.
Well, how about that?
We
I'm not
flew
surprised.
up there, and of course I did the play-by-play. And
I think the biggest thing ever that started Troy Cable was the interviewing of players. I think that's what got everybody hooked, is when they could see their kid on certain football teams getting interviewed.
Right.
I think that was the biggest thing.
Y'all used to do that on
and
picture
ladies
day.
and gentlemen, you know, everybody.
What's your weight? How much do you bench? I know your mom and daddy.
Yeah, that's right. And I have people 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
People come up to me all the time when they hear I'm Mike Amos' son, and that's the first thing they say is, your dad interviewed me so-and-so years ago, and it meant the world to me.
You know what Mike Turk told me last night? He said, I told him, I said, I love you, Mike. And of course, you know, we were real close to that team, and Mike and Danny.
Come over for dinner a lot. We probably had a lot of recruiting violations with
We probably did. They probably could have put us in jail.
A lot of steak dinners.
You're right, and they knew that they wanted a good meal other than a dining hall meal they could come over. But Mike and I became very good friends, and he said, you know, Mike, and he was in the back of the line. What we do, we interview all these people and for the 28 years, we've interviewed all the candidates, and then we find out about them, and then they move on and have supper, and then it all starts. And they've done started with the Civitan Club, and then was taken over by the Exchange Club, and they've done a wonderful job. Jerry Miller is just a fabulous guy, you know. But what I'm saying, and at the end of the line, here is Mike Turk, Mike. I said, who are you and who are your parents? And he told him who his parents were, and of course we got in conversation, and he said, you've interviewed me, Mike, many times, and of course every opening of every football season, we'd line up 150 guys, and every one of them would get interviewed.
Now that you're talking about this, it's just amazing.
But let me tell you, one of the reasons I did it was because I wanted, first of all, them to feel at home. You know, Alabama and Auburn kids are celebrities. You know, everybody said, oh, and a lot of people don't even know who played for Troy. Well, that was a way that they could know, you know, through the interviews, and to make them feel at home and make them feel big time. They're on TV.
You know, I was in the newspaper business for a long time, and it's the same concept. What do you want to do if you want to sell newspapers? You put as many names and faces in that newspaper as you can.
That's right. And, of course, a lot of people over the years have kept all these great memories, and I'd hate to name all the big events that I've worked, and I've worked a bunch. But just think of how many parents right now can get a video out of the TV set or
the Troy Cable Vault.
the Troy Cable Vault.
I don't want to embarrass you, but Troy Cable now is in 20 communities and 6 or 7 counties.
Well, they're there. Lake Martin, all my
Yeah.
I guess yuppie friends get to watch you at Lake Martin.
But none of this would have happened, in my opinion, if you wouldn't have had Bogey Vision or Mike Amos hosting all these events, because that's the reason that people had to have Troy Cable.
That's right.
To really watch their children.
That's right. And like I said, there are people right now, 30, 40 years ago, are coming and asking Steve Camp, can you find tapes of my game? And we store them. We don't throw them away. And most everything we've ever done has been stored.
Well, we're talking.
If they want my life history, all they have to do is take the tapes and go back. I've been doing this.
Hey, they can play a show later today. Bud Amos with your dad on it, probably.
And with your dad on it. In fact,
one day I want my small children to be able to watch those to see what their
and your dad was a fun guest to have.
But let me also interject to interrupt you, Mike, if you don't mind.
No.
All the credit in the world to Troy Cable for continuing that tradition. Once they were established, they really didn't need to do this probably, but they've kept doing it. And then you add somebody like Steve Camp, who just builds on it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I still say that I can't think of another community in the state of Alabama, probably very few in America, where you have a small town that has covered so many events.
And of course, any event that is going, a lot of people are going to be involved.
Camp's about to walk in and hand you a gold watch, and you're about to retire.
A gold watch, yeah. I tell you what, I've lost my watch. I had to have.
How can you lose a watch when I'm giving you 10 of them?
Well, I know it, and I had a thing taken off my hand and couldn't wear my watch, and I don't know where I put my watch.
Huge news out of Mountain Brook yesterday. Tristan Wofford breaks the heart of Alabama fans and decides to go to LSU, a team that could possibly lose their coach any minute now. Strange decision by Tristan Wofford. All my friends that have met him at Mountain Brook, though, say he's a great kid, comes from a great family, but 5-star prospect going to LSU is going to break a lot of Alabama fans' hearts.
Boy, that would have been huge.
A lot of people thought he was going to go to Memphis and play for Anthony Hardaway, but really strange decision yesterday by Tristan Wofford.
One of the new Troy coaches, and I got to know those guys pretty well now. They're great guys. But one of them, Penny Hardaway, is one of his best friends.
Really?
Yeah, one of the coaches is from Memphis.
That's right. And Mike, he also...
Is this karma here, Bill? Reuben Foster is going through walkthroughs yesterday for the Washington Redskins and tears his ACL and is out for the season next year. And he's had all the turmoil in the offseason and had all kinds of issues since he's been in the NFL. And just going through walkthroughs, tears his ACL yesterday.
You know what? His career is going to be over with, I believe.
Redskins took a huge chance by picking him up.
Yeah.
It might be karma. In our Sunday school Sunday, we were learning about other world religions and Hinduism and Buddhism. I think it's Buddhism that believes in karma. So you might be right, Michael. Well, for his sake, I hope he can bounce back.
Of course, Mike Turk, who spent, played on two national championship teams, and was probably one of the great wishbone quarterbacks of all time. I don't know if I've ever seen one any better. And of course,
he's been at Huntington as head coach now.
Well, he's been there 15 years, and you know what? He was in Troy. He told everybody he was in Troy 20 years. All his children were born in Troy. He was baptized from the First Baptist Church. He spent 20 years here as a player and coach, and then he's been in Montgomery as the head coach at Huntington for 15 years, and has done a great job. And
sure has.
Turk and his two sons, Jimbo and Jake, they're out working. In fact,
they're already done with college, aren't they? That's hard to believe.
Jake is a senior at Auburn now, the young one, and Jimbo is, I think he's coaching somewhere, I'm not sure. But just to tell you a little bit about Mike Turk in his career, his 32 career rushing touchdowns was ranks fourth and is tops among Troy quarterbacks. Turk 6,707 yards of career total offense, ranks fifth overall, and his 62 touchdowns he was responsible for passing and rushing are are fourth all time. But and then in the spring of 2012, Turk was one of 11 initial inductees into the Troy University Hall of Fame. So he was in that first group, and that'll tell you.
Yeah, you know, it's heartbreaking. Before the national championship game, he lost the Harlan Hill Award to Johnny Bailey, who ended up playing in the NFL for several years.
And I love to tell this story. And I
thought he won it.
He was runner-up.
Second.
Now you were there, and let me tell you what a great day that was.
Earlier that day, I lost my football on the roof at the Ramada Inn in Florence.
Well, they stayed up and played almost all night long.
It snowed.
The surprise thing, the next morning there was snow everywhere. And the game was televised and was going to start at 10 o'clock. And, early CBS game, and it was live across the country. And they were playing Portland State for the national championship. And Turk knew the night before that he didn't win the honor. He was the runner-up to the Harlan Hill Award, which was like the Heisman Trophy. All he did, he rushed for 190 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and had a 70-yard touchdown call back.
I remember, yeah.
He was a great player.
My first Mike Turk memory, I was the scorekeeper of the Charles Henderson High School baseball team in the great Mike Hogan era. And Charles Henderson would play Jeff Davis, which was a baseball powerhouse.
Bubba, that's my buddy.
They were always close games, but I remember Mike Turk stealing home from third base in a baseball game against Charles Henderson.
Yeah, he was a great athlete.
I'll tell you one thing about Mike Turk, though. He was just all muscle, too.
Yeah.
Well, he was probably 165 pounds, but it was all muscle.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something.
He walked on the Troy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, what he told this story. He didn't know what he wanted to do, so everybody told him he was too small to play football, and he was going to play baseball at AUM, and he said he found out he wasn't that good a baseball player, so he decided what he would do would go to Troy and walk on, and Coach Gailey gave him a chance, and the rest is history.
I remember when he was the quarterback at Jeff Davis, and Jeff Davis didn't run the wishbone, and so
they didn't run.
So they didn't showcase Mike's talents, which were super quickness.
That's right.
And so I guess he must have been good. He was a quarterback several years. But he didn't rush for many years. That's right.
Yeah. Jeff Davis, John Longshore was his backup. You're right. And he's real good friends with our play-by-play man. They're real good friends.
Doug Amos?
No, not Doug, but Troy's play-by-play guy.
You talking about Barry McKnight?
Yeah, Barry McKnight is a premium guy.
Sure
I'm telling you, he is a premium guy, and he's one of the best announcers in college sports. I'm telling you, our network, Mike, with McKnight and
Jerry Miller.
Jerry Miller is as good as anybody's.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it over the years. Of course, that decision was made by Johnny Williams, and what a great hire that was.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And
need to mention local news, Chase Smart is first team All-Sun Belt, so congratulations to Coach Smart and Chase and his family.
That's great.
What a great senior year by Chase Smart. I mean,
what a book you could write.
One of the best high school players we had ever seen, and finally he was healthy and put it together his senior year. What a year he had.
Chase Smart is completely deaf. He has a gadget that he can wear to be able to hear.
A cochlear implant?
And he's been like that all his life, and just think of how much he's been able to achieve. He is a great role model, Chase Smart.
He sure is.
And of course his dad and mom supported him all the way. And let me tell you this, not many people stole off of Chase Smart. I'll tell you this, I've seen a lot of good athletes.
Right.
But Chase Smart's one of the best high school baseball players I think I've ever seen.
And didn't his predecessor was another homegrown kid that starred at Troy, the Dennison kid. There was also
Dennison was a great player. No question about it.
Dennison had an unbelievable year. Last year he hit over 400.
And then Dennison, and of course he went to the regionals, and I went up there, and that was 4 of the most fun times. What I do,
Well, you're in Athens, Georgia.
I went to Athens, Georgia by myself. And stayed up there and had parties every night, for Troy fans, and stayed up there 4 nights at Athens, Georgia. Boy, what a beautiful campus! You think
I've never been.
You think Alabama's got sorority houses and fraternity houses? I've never seen anything like it. They're just giant mansions for these sorority houses, and
their downtown area probably has about 50 restaurants and about 50 bars. I've never seen anything
and you
like
know
it.
what? I've never been lost so many times in my life. And there was the hardest place to get to a ball field I've ever seen because there's so many turns. Every time I'd have to ask somebody how to get there. But I was there, and it was so much fun to watch baseball.
Dennison also had over 80 RBIs last year.
Oh, yeah, he was great. You know what? Let me tell you something. Laying all things aside and pro baseball, and, of course, he's a very smart guy. He'll do very well in whatever he does. But he married the prettiest girl on campus, Mike. And she was an all-American shortstop. Think of that bloodline, those two.
Hartley girl.
The Hartley girl and the Dennison boy. Just think of what kind of bloodline they're going to have one day.
Now, I remember Dennison, I can't remember, I don't know his first name, but his daddy was Joey.
Yeah.
That was the offensive lineman on our state championship football team.
That's right.
And Joey Dennison was the John Hanna of high school football.
Yeah, exactly.
Year.
Well, and of course, his dad, Joey, and his brother, took the band route. And both
Ray was in my class.
Yeah, Ray's a great guy too. And
Joey still coaches offensive line at Pike County High School. For several years.
Yeah, I bet he's
and Joey's one of the few people that walking around that's got a state championship 1980 ring and a 1984 national championship ring from Troy.
He started at North Alabama, and then he transferred back to Troy.
That's right.
And started in Troy.
And then the great Willie Collins. How good was he?
Boy, you should have seen when Joey and Willie would go up against each other in practice.
And they would put them on that board or what?
That was 2 studs right there.
Yeah, right. And if he would have been, talking about Willie Collins, if he'd been 2 or 3 inches taller, he'd been a household word. He'd been an all-pro.
Well, if Joey had been 6'2" instead of 5'10", and same with Willie, they both would have been NFL football players.
They had the legs for it. Mm-hmm. Both of them had the legs for it. And then there was a middle linebacker, and I want to tell the story here. There was a middle linebacker. Jay Jeffcoat had what they call a 7 diamond or 6 diamond, where they had only one linebacker, mm-hmm. and the rest were all up front. And that linebacker became a doctor. Or no, not a doctor, but Shiver.
Paul Shiver was one of the
Shiver
great
was
players
that middle linebacker, and he had to make most of the tackles, and he made them. Probably made over 100 tackles.
He married his high school sweetheart Sherry Armstrong, who was Neil's sister.
Yeah, Neil's sister, and of course, he was in a terrible wreck, mm-hmm. but he fought his way through it, and he's doing a lot better. And of course, he was a great one. And
then another team that we just talked about, another player on that team, Kenny Keith, has become a great football coach down in Dothan.
You know who the center?
I tell Dad all the time, I'm amazed by Kenny Keith being a head coach because he always seems so quiet and not really in your face, like jumping up and down kind of coach when he coached when I was in Charles Anderson.
Yeah. But he is intense.
That's impressive that he's gone on to have a successful head coaching career.
If you get to know him, he's kind of secretly intense. And,
Well, let me tell you this. Back then, Coach Jeffcoat ran his team like a college team. I mean, they ran a no-huddle wishbone, and their little quarterback would get so low behind the center. But, the center was the Davis boy, wasn't it?
Ross Davis.
Ross Davis the center. He wasn't very big either, was he?
That was Marsh's.
Wasn't Ross the center?
Yeah, and he probably weighed 160 pounds.
That's right. And
next to him, the right guard was Joey Dennison, and then one of the McClellan boys was the left guard. He was big, and then Jeff Davis and Patrick Johnson split time at right tackle. Chad Carter was a tackle.
That's right.
And Kevin Ingalls was the tight end, backed up by Griswold, who was a good player. Ken Anderson was the wide receiver. Kenny Keith had been a wide receiver.
Was that Tyson Griswold?
Tyson's older brother,
Yeah.
Dane Griswold.
Well, let me tell you something about, you were just mentioning,
Mike Lott was one of the halfbacks,
yeah,
if you can
you were
believe
just
that.
mentioning one of the wide receivers, defensive back, who was that, the punt returner?
Ken Anderson.
Yes, and let me tell you, he was a good kick returner, really was.
He was fast. Him and
He lives in Atlanta now.
Kenny Keefe split time at split end up until the senior year, and then they moved Kenny Keefe to cornerback.
And when did Michael come around, tight end Michael?
Kelly?
Kelly, yeah, when he come around, he was pretty good.
He was a class
We
behind
don't
me.
talk about him enough. He played at
He
Troy.
went on to play at Troy.
And played regularly at
Started,
Troy, and a great player, and we don't talk enough about him. In fact, somebody told me he lives in Troy, and I would love to have him on this show.
He was in Montgomery. He was a banker. I'd see him
Yeah.
from time to time.
Great guy.
Very quiet,
Yeah.
but
It's still hard to believe that we have to talk about the late Jay Jeffcoat. That's a guy I thought that would live a long time. That's
Let
just
me
hard
tell
to
you,
believe for me still.
let me share something with you. Several people went down to see Jay, and he knew he had a terminal illness, and he's a great Christian, no question about it, a great Christian, and he and the Lord were ready, and he told the guys when they got ready to leave, he said, guys, two things can happen, and they're both great. One thing would be they'll find a cure for this disease I've got, and the other thing is, if they don't find anything that'll cure me from this disease, I can go and live in the house of the Lord forever. And I thought that was one of the most courageous quotes from anybody I've ever known. Was, hey, there are two things going to happen, and both of them are great. They're going to either find a cure for this disease, or I'll go and live in the house of the Lord forever.
Yep.
So when he left Charles Henderson after the state championship, did he go coach for Gailey at Troy State?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of years after now, because he coached 2 or 3 years after the championship game.
He coached. He was the
okay.
offensive line coach on that national championship team of
Yeah, that's right.
Turk. He
In
went.
'84, yeah, that's right.
He coached Joey Dennis in high school, and then coached him again in college.
Exactly right. And he had some great linemen like Mitch Guy.
He was a mad scientist when it came to offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was good.
I didn't even know what I was even trying to do. I mean, it was all about your steps and your arm movements and stuff like that. I played offensive line for him, and it made football a lot more complicated than I'd ever known.
Really, it was
just a totally different way.
Have you ever heard
of
about the
playing.
short step? He taught what you call the short step, where you would make one step and then another short step, which would get your weight behind the block. It was a way he was taught years
The way
ago.
he taught it, a skinny offensive lineman running a wishbone offense when she ran, he could get away with having guys over 170 pounds.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really how he did it was technique.
Yeah, no question. He was.
I think
right.
he had to be one of the best offensive line coaches in America.
And then
Who else tried to hire him one time to go to Arkansas, I heard.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something else about him too. The next years were friends of yours that became the quarterback. One of them went to, his brother went to Army and played for Army, and then
The Rainey's, Todd Rainey, and Scott Rainey.
yeah. Todd Rainey was a pretty good wishbone quarterback. He was real fast,
Mm-hmm.
and and he coached those two guys too. So
So it was Steve Grice was quarterback at Charles Henderson, and like Tommy McCracken, some of those guys. Like, who was the coach then? Bobby Lee?
I think so.
Or was that when Fulkerson was there?
golly, don't even mention Fulkerson. That was a
I
great.
know. I mean, he tried to
That's
look
worth
like
higher
he was one of the worst coaches
everything.
in the history of football. But
I
I'm
think
just
there
trying
was-
to think of who
Well,
was
let me tell you,
the
I'm a
coach.
great
Bobby
guy.
Lee?
There might have been a gap, Michael, between the brief coach and then Bobby Lee.
When was Wood there?
He was back in the 1970s.
With Mac Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
70,
he
early
didn't
70s.
stay there long. He was a great coach, though. Mac Wood was. He went.
I mean, but Bobby Lee was one of probably my favorite coach of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a great guy.
Well, he was-
I remember he was the head coach at one time, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
became the
you're
principal
right.
after that, though.
That's right, and a great guy and a great coach, and
Well, he came back and coached with Jeffcoat when I
Yeah.
played.
and nothing was wrong with
1994.
Fulkerson is that they asked Chan Gailey to give him a recommendation, and he wasn't even a full-time coach on Coach Gailey's staff. and some guy said, "Hey, this guy was with Troy. Let's hire him," and he wasn't ready to be a head coach, you know. And I coached with the head coach one time, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't very much older than the kids with coaching, you know. But I still say getting somebody fired up, I can do that as well as anybody.
Well, Todd, let's
And
finish
that-
the
and that's
top.
part- and
we
that's part
bounced
of it.
around. Todd Rainey played split time at quarterback his junior year with Barry Tucker. And then his senior year, Coach Jeff Cope moved him to free safety. So he was the free safety on that. So he was about a 6'1", 200-pound free safety that could fly.
Well, let me tell you something. Mike Lott played on the national championship team as a running back. He won. I bet he didn't weigh 145, 150 pounds at the most.
Yeah, and, you know,
but you know what? He could block you on the corner. He was tough. And then, of course, the fullback was
Beverly.
Was Beverly, and they ran the fullback almost all the time.
Yeah.
You know, the running backs were there. They were set up in a wishbone set, but most of the time they leave it with their
I'll tell you the Beverly
fullback.
story. The year before that, Jerry was a halfback, and he really should have been a halfback because he ran like a halfback. But we had Buddy Austin, so Buddy Austin was a great
he was
fullback.
really good.
And then going into that senior year, Coach Jeff Cope converted Jerry from a halfback to a fullback because he
right.
wanted the fullback to carry it 80% of the time.
And
Jerry was, as a fullback, he was tall and kind of, I bet he weighed 175 pounds.
And was fast.
As a 6'1", 175 pounds as a fullback.
That's right.
But he ran for probably 1,300 yards that year.
That's right. And they executed it so well. And like you said, very rarely. Who was the other halfback? Lott was one, and Kenny Keith might have been.
No, it was Alex White who could fly.
Alex White. Now he was one of them. Yeah.
He signed a baseball scholarship with LSU. He never ended up playing at LSU.
He played at Dothan, I think, at one time.
And then the other one was one of the few people in my class that actually played that year was a guy named Kenny Smith who could fly too. But
I tell you something about him too. He played you one way, and that was it. I mean, Buddy Austin would have been a great linebacker, but he never played linebacker. He played a fullback or halfback. You know, when Alabama,
think about Richard Calhoun and Cinquay Pennington not playing. Cinquay playing offense, Cinquay not playing defense, and Richard not playing offensive line.
I know it.
Shoot, you can't tell me that wouldn't have helped.
I know it, and he
was stubborn too.
Thomas played defensive line. I mean, defensive end, and didn't even play offensive tackle. The guy was 6'4", 290
That's right.
pounds.
You're exactly right. He was stubborn as any coach that I've ever known.
I mean, he was
That's like a lot of coaches.
It looked better. It looked better when you.
More people played for him than most coaches would allow.
Exactly, and of course, you're right. You played one either offense or defense, and that was it.
That senior year, that state championship, that senior class, I'm going to go from memory and say they had about 24 players, and those guys had played together their whole lives.
Yeah.
And I mean, of those 24 players, 22 of them played, buddy.
But to watch them and the year they won the state championship, to watch them, it was just like watching a machine. And they didn't try to get a bunch of yardage all the time. They get 3 and 4, and they get 3 and 4. Then they get 2 and 3, and
then
they
they
get the first
finally
down,
pitch the ball
and
to
the
Alex
clock,
White.
and the clock, and then a lot of times they'll throw that pass too, where he would stick it in that fullback's belly and pull it out, and the receivers were always wide open.
Yeah. So the
Michael
receivers
Kelly,
probably averaged 30 yards a catch.
And I want to say Michael Kelly was the main receiver.
Not that year.
Team.
Later he was.
He didn't play on the state championship team.
No, he would have been a freshman. Michael Kelly was a class behind me.
I didn't realize that. Who were the receivers on that team?
It was Ken Anderson.
Yeah, Ken Anderson, that's right.
And Kevin Ingles was the main tight end.
And he was really good. But to watch them play, and let me tell you this, they didn't sneak by anybody. They played, let me tell you, in the playoffs, I know they played. Eufaula had a great team. Elba had a great team. Greenville had a very good team. Stanhope Elmore had a real good team.
I mean, they didn't done the same class as Charles Henderson by then,
Yeah, they were. They were.
Yeah, I think they were because they played them in the playoffs, didn't they?
No, we played them in the regular season. They were in our division.
How much has Elba's population changed since then?
Yeah, I think they might have been a little bit smaller than we were. I don't. You think they were?
I can remember.
In high school, my senior year, Elba was 3A.
Well, see, all right. Well,
But there were only. You got to remember there were only 4 classifications.
Now they're 1A.
Charles Henderson was 3A when they won the state championship.
But there are only 4 classifications. Now there's 7. So I brag about that state championship team. When we won the state championship, there were maybe 120 schools in our classification.
That's
Now
right.
there might be 80 or 70 schools.
And I'll tell you this, they didn't play but 13 games. In fact, they play 14 now, but they played 13 back then.
And the championship game was at the actual teams.
Yeah, they
stadium,
went.
wasn't it?
All right, now they went one time. They went to play the school from Birmingham, where Bo went to school. Didn't they play them first?
They played McAdory?
No, well, maybe that was another
In the playoffs, we played Eufaula, who was very good. Boy, that stadium was almost packed for that one. And we played Greenville, who was great.
Yeah, really good,
Super physical. Barely beat Greenville. Then we played a rematch with Stanhope Elmore, who we'd beaten in the regular season, and then beat them handily both times. And then that got us to the state championship, and we played Hartsville, who had beaten everybody 50-0. I mean, up in North Alabama. And then we beat Hartsville, I think, 14-7.
I remember that.
Even back then, I mean, I'm not trying to, date it, make y'all feel real old, but I mean, did y'all have game film and tape?
Oh yeah, everybody had game film. Yeah,
it was on those old projectors, and
and seeing a guy like Jeff Coat would do it like a college guy. I mean, he knew what everybody was doing, and he was just a very, very good coach, no question about it, and became a great line coach at Troy. And he was played on some and coached on some great teams at Livingston. Jay Jeffcoat is the reason the great one came to Troy, Mike. You know what I'm talking about?
Willie Slater.
Willie Slater came out of a little old town of Coffeyville and went to Livingston, and Livingston won a national championship. No huddle wishbone.
Under Mickey Andrews, didn't they?
Well, I think Andrews, but the no huddle wishbone came. You know who they got that from? From Auburn coach that coached at Livingston.
Jack Crow?
Jack Crow is where they got all that option, no huddle stuff, and he coached at Livingston. So did, there were 2 or 3 others, but that's where Jeff Coat got all that.
And in high school, he came from Robert E. Lee High School, and I've seen pictures of him and went to his, when I was working in a newspaper in Montgomery, I covered one of the Robert E. Lee High School class reunions and saw Coach Jeff Coat and all of his classmates. And one of his good friends was Spence McCracken.
Oh, yeah.
Who's a legendary high school football coach in Alabama.
Right. No question about it.
Spence McCracken, of course, went on to coach at Opelika, and then Brian Blackman, who coaches at Troy now. That was his mentor.
The biggest injustice of all time is that Spence McCracken.
Under him, and then became the head coach of Opelika for 10 years, I guess.
The biggest injustice in the world was Spence McCracken not coaching in college. What kind of recruiter would he have been? Whoa! At Auburn, he's an Auburn guy, and Auburn never hired him, and he should have coached in college.
There was a stigma forever that if you're a high school head coach, you can't coach in college, and boy, that's kind of been disproved now, hasn't it?
Yeah, no
Gus
question.
Malzahn and the guy from Ole Miss and several others.
Yeah. We got off on this trip down memory lane.
These guys came from high school ranks. Chip Lindsey.
Yeah, that's right, and of course there's been a lot of them. And
you know who set back that movement probably was the head coach at Notre Dame. What was his name, Mike?
Jerry Fouts.
Jerry Fouts.
Yeah, I know it.
They came from Moeller High School,
That's
and
right.
he was a colossal flop.
That's right.
And I'm sure after that, everybody said,
exactly.
We're not going to hire.
You don't ever see it. You're right. Very rarely do you ever see it.
Just for Troy basketball, I read yesterday Javon Johnson, who was a all-state player out of Huntsville, who was supposed to take over Wesley Person for us scoring, averaged 10.4 points a game last year, but of course Troy struggled and went 12-8 in basketball. Of course they have a new coach now, but I tell you what, he must have a lot of talent because he just signed with Iowa State.
So he left Troy.
Basketball program, playing in the Big 12, and he's got to sit out a year because he was never redshirted at Troy, but he'll have 2 years to play. And 6'7", 200 pounds. Be interested to see what happens in the future for.
Well, what was his name, Mike? He came in late though. I mean, he didn't play much for Troy, did he?
No, he was a starter. He averaged 10 points a game last year.
All right, he was from.
He was the star player, star recruit out of Huntsville that just really never. I mean, he had a few 20-point games.
Are you sure he was from Decatur? I thought he was from Decatur.
No, he's from Huntsville. Well, yeah, he's from Huntsville, Decatur area. Maybe Decatur.
Yeah, but so and
he was supposed to be a star for Troy, but just never really performed like everybody thought he would. But I mean, Iowa State, shoot, they go to the NCAA tournament every year.
Yeah, I know it. Well, I know he's a good player, and I hate to see him go. To tell you the truth, he's pretty.
It's just going to happen when you bring in new coaches. I mean, Coach Cross is going to have another scholarship open, and probably better when it's all said and done if you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Turnover in college basketball is amazing.
Yeah. Well, Mike, that's going to leave.
From a arena where maybe you average 1,000 a game to going over to Iowa State where they average 10,000 a game at least.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, let me just say this: I'm very confident that Coach Cross is going to bring in some good players, and like you said, that just opens up another scholarship.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it works.
And of course, Mike Robbie Sheldon ends up winning a tournament this past week.
Yeah, he's won 2 of the last, I think, 3, and if he wins one more, he'll actually be able to be promoted to the PGA Tour immediately if you win 3 times on the Web.com tour. And there's a lot of golf left, so you might see him on the PGA Tour before it's all said and done.
Well, you'll definitely see him next year.
And that linebacker, Brooks Copia,
Kepka.
Kepka.
I don't know why you can't get that name right.
Well, it's a K. It starts with a K. Kepka. So the O is.
I was reading the other day. He, is a guy that he looks really big on TV, but he's only 6 foot, 190 pounds. He looks like he's about 6'3", about 230.
Yeah, I know it, but I reckon because he's muscled up so much. But everybody's saying he's going to be a great one.
Already is.
Well, he already is. You win 4 majors, you're already great.
Okay, now Troy travels to play in the Sun Belt Conference tournament starting tomorrow. Now there's a game today, but who's playing in that one?
South Alabama, I know, is playing La Monroe, and then 2 other teams are having to play. It's a single game elimination today.
Yeah.
That was why that victory on Saturday was so huge for Troy, because now they're in the double elimination bracket.
Now, let me ask you this.
We'll be able to give live reports on the show tomorrow, because Troy starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
8 a.m. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Have your Egg McMuffin and then
to start a baseball game at 8 a.m.
That's going to be flipping back and forth from today in L.A. and the Troy baseball game.
But now that's Eastern time, though. It's 9 o'clock, isn't it?
Need to mention Drew Frederick, Corey Gill, Sadler Goodwin, and Rigsby Mosley of Troy's baseball team all were second team all Sun Belt as well. So
Sadler Goodwin made the tournament team. I mean the All-Star team.
Shoot, he hit 320, 9 home runs, 52 RBIs.
Yeah, he just wasn't a very good pitcher, was he?
Yeah, but he was good at first base.
Yeah, and I tell you, a couple of those guys got a shot. The shortstop's got a shot.
I think Frederick will definitely play at the next level. He'll get drafted.
Yeah, he's fast and he's got a lot of pop and whatever.
Does Troy have any alumni in the major leagues right now? Troy University?
Who they got in the major leagues right now?
The last one they had was the pitcher with the Yankees, but he got hurt, didn't he?
The Whitley kid was the last guy they had in the pros, Chase Whitley. And he was pitching for the Braves last year, but had a really bad start and got released.
Yeah. I missed the
question. I think maybe that was it.
I missed the old Birmingham News, which is now really defunct. But they remember
they'd have all the minor league stats.
On the Sunday edition, they'd have Alabamians and the minors, and so if you played high school or college baseball, they would have your stats of how you were doing in the minor league.
Well, let me tell you,
I remember when the Chase Riddle era. That list was just full of Troy.
Full of Troy fans. I'll tell you who does that. The Panama City paper every Sunday, Mike. And let me tell you this that you wouldn't believe. You know, what college, Mike, produces more professional baseball players in the Alabama, Florida, Mississippi area than anybody else.
What college?
Yeah, what college?
Chipola?
Chipola. Chipola Junior College in Marietta, Georgia is the most prolific program in this part of the country.
Producing.
All you got to do is, I mean, you're right. I'm talking about it's like Troy used to be. Man, most everybody comes from Chipola. And Coach Johnson, the coach there, has won several national championships. He was on the committee. He was on one of the guys we interviewed, and I was on the committee after Chase left. And they ended up giving it to a guy that coached down in South Florida. But and Johnson would have come here. He reminded me of Pat Dye when we interviewed him. He was just that kind of country boy type guy, but you could tell he was very positive about what he did. But Chipola College has probably produced, now LSU is pretty good too, but we're not counting Louisiana. But Chipola, though, has really produced a lot of great players.
Well,
the only guy I think Troy's got an age lead now is that TJ Rivera for the Mets.
Is he still playing with them?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And the Wright kid is no longer in the major leagues?
No, he retired.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more of Today in L.A.
This is Bobby Flay.
I'm coming for you, Bobby.
They say he's never had to eat his words. But if he did, they'd be delicious. They say the word flavor was named after him. They say he can make an omelet without breaking an egg.
We were hoping for that.
They say you can beat Bobby Flay. What do they know? Beat Bobby Flay, Thursday night at 10 on Food Network.
Are you a driver trainee just finishing school and want to drive an automatic truck? Then call Wiley Sanders Truck Line. Right, Fuzzy? We have automatic trucks. That's right. And we will reimburse you for your driver training. No pets? Not at Wiley Sanders Truck Line. At Wiley Sanders Truck Line, we thought of everything. We thought of the killer for your fuzzy friend. Right, Fuzzy? Tell them about it. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Troy, Alabama. Come drive for the best today. Wiley Sanders Truck Line. Wiley Sanders Truck Line. Tell them, Fuzzy.
Troy Cable Security makes it easy to stay aware and stay in control of your home wherever you are. User-friendly interface allows easy navigation for lights, locks thermostat, video and garage doors. Never worry about leaving your garage door open or the front door unlocked. Your mobile app can send alerts to your phone for alarm and no alarm events. Know when your children arrive home from school with video response. Make sure your home is powered by Troy Cable Security for ultimate access, awareness, and protection.
Hey folks, are you tired of spending hard-earned money on a gas grill only to have it burn up in less than 2 years? Not to mention burning your food. Here at Southern Grill and Patio in Troy, Alabama, we carry the Holland Grill line. They've been around since 1988, and there are people right here in Troy that have had theirs for over 20 years. These grills are guaranteed not to flare up.
You can grill, steam, or smoke on your new Holland Grill today. Come see us at Southern Grill and Patio in Troy, Alabama, inside Town and Country Flooring Center.
Back to our show, and ladies and gentlemen, I was looking here. Larry Brian Hicks of Troy died. He was 47 years old, and he died back in April. And a memorial service for Larry Hicks, who is the son of Larry Hicks, the game warden. And of course, his survivors include sons Joel Brian Hicks, of Daphne and Justin Lee Hicks of Montgomery, and parents Larry Jack Hicks and Donna of Troy. And Larry Hicks was the game warden that saved the race car.
So sad.
He saved Jack Rouse.
I did a big story on that.
But this was his son that died.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But of course, Bob McGee, my good friend, was, of course, your dad knew Bob McGee, and Robert A. McGee, had a funeral home here for years, and great guy. In fact, he was one of the founders of Little League Baseball, Robert A. McGee, of Bob's dad. And Bob, of course, lived over in Jackson, Mississippi, and they buried him yesterday.
Hey, your guy from Jeopardy won $89,000 yesterday, didn't he?
Oh God, tell us what he did. Tell us what he did,
Yeah,
Bill.
he's been on the show. That was his 23rd appearance on Jeopardy, and he's won more than $80,000 13 times. Before he had been on Jeopardy, nobody had ever won $80,000. He's done it 13 times.
Now, let me tell you this, something that will tell you something. It doesn't mean that he has not missed a couple of answers, but see, he would always come back and win more money, and that's how they rate these guys. Is that right?
Well, that's the way that would be the metric I use. Is how
Did
much
you know that,
win.
Mike? It's not that he's answered every question correctly. It's just what he did. He's maneuvered the money, and
He wins the show every time. That's all that matters.
that's right. Yeah.
Well, what's unique about him is his strategy is so different than everybody else that's played. He's fearless when it comes to his wagers on the daily doubles. So he tries to build as much money as he can, and then when he gets that money, he risks it either all or a ton of it. So he is winning. Ken Jennings is the best-known Jeopardy player of all time. He averaged $33,000 per win. James is winning $77,000 every time he wins. So James is winning $44,000 more than Jennings. But to get to your point, Mike, James Holzhauser is only answering one more question correctly than Ken Jennings did. So he's leveraged that one more correct answer per game into somehow $44,000.
Still the super man though. He won 1.7 million.
2.5 million.
2.5 million.
74
He won like 75 shows. Who actually beat Jennings?
Some lady that got beat the very next game. It all came down to Final Jeopardy, and she got the Final Jeopardy question right, and Ken missed it.
Yeah.
What was the famous movie where it was like a cheating scandal?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
On a show.
64.
What was it, like in the 50s or the 60s? What was that called?
Yeah, I remember that guy.
I think that movie was called 64, but that was a huge scandal. Yeah, you're right. The guy that set the record of the day was being fed the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, today.
Did you look into how much money he's actually won as a poker player?
I found out how much he made on one bet. He's a sports gambler. He doesn't play poker.
So he's not a no limit Texas Hold'em player.
He says he'll gamble on anything, and he has. He can count cards and blackjack, but he bets on football games, baseball games, hockey games.
I'd like to know who he takes every week. Would you? We're gonna get him to call in.
Well, I found out that half the books out there won't even take his bet. But he did win 7.
You tried all to try to possibly interview him, or is it just too hard to get an interview with him right now?
I assumed it was going to be too hard, and I was on a deadline, so I just found quotes from other interviews.
And ladies and gentlemen, his article has attracted how many people?
Over 100,000 readers.
Can you believe that? And how do you do that?
Well, I just...
Internet, man.
I know it, but I would be interested in it, you know, to find out what's making this guy so unbelievable.
My take was somewhat...
What is that like one day? Is that also like shares as well, Bill? How's that work?
I think those are called unique visitors is the way...
Unique visitors.
So if it's like me, I've been to my story 15 times and read all the readers' comments. I don't get counted 15 times. I just get counted one time. But it was my Holzhauer story was picked up by about 5 different sites.
Yeah. But again, you know, I was thinking that
this guy's so big. The head ESPN announcer Scott Van Pelt interviews him all the time.
Yeah, I know it. You're exactly right.
I'm intrigued by him.
I tell you, it had been. And when will it be on air again?
It's 9:30 in Troy on Channel 8.
Today
is when we tape it. Yeah, it comes on at 9, right after our show, an hour after our show.
All right, you watch it today right here on our network.
It comes on in the morning?
No, it would vary by market. You know, it's a syndicated show, like Wheel of Fortune.
So it's already happened, is that right?
Yeah, they taped these shows weeks ago. But it depends on whatever your TV station wants to play it. You know, some people play Jeopardy after the 6 o'clock news, and some play it before.
And the guy that runs that is one of the classiest guys in the history of broadcasting to me, and he had terminal cancer. Is that right? Alex Trebek.
Well, what will happen if Alex Trebek no longer can do that show? Do you think they'll do a replacement? Is it that possible? popular of a show still?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
I've-
Bomb, bomb. How does that little tune go? Dum, 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 dum.
You know who wrote that music?
Who?
The show's creator, Merv Griffin.
Merv Griffin did. He's brilliant.
And I read that he has made millions of dollars in royalties just on that
Oh,
song alone. And he said he wrote the song in about 30 minutes.
Yeah. How many times have you ever seen a baseball game where the umpire and the coach walk out? Or the guy walks out to talk to a pitcher. At Troy, they'll start playing that song. Dum 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 dum
Every
dum
time,
dum
it's
dum 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 da 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 da.
In my research, when I go into research, I dive deep. And the top 3 syndicated shows that I can determine are Judge Judy, the courtroom show, Wheel of Fortune, and then Jeopardy. So they're all the big kings.
That's
that Family Feud's pretty funny to watch.
It does well.
And it's amazing, and there are a lot of folks, and I hope you're watching our show
today. The biggest replacement ever was Bob Barker got replaced when he, retired by Drew Carey. I guess that'll be one of the biggest ones ever when Trebek was.
Barker had to be 90 years old when he finished it.
Alex Trebek is 78. You'd never know it.
And classic guy too, and the guy with, of course, with the
Sajak and Vanna White. Vanna White's like 65.
Yeah, that's right. And Sajak is how old?
71. We found that out.
But to me, Trebek is the guru. He's been great.
He's been doing it for 35 years.
But and of course, there's been a lot of people out there that have stayed.
How hard is it to get on the show? I'd be interested to interview Barry McKnight and find out about it.
Barry McKnight was on
it. Incredibly. It took James Holzhauser has been trying to get on it since college, and he's 34 now.
Really?
You got to take an online test that they give a couple of times a year. You got to ace it. And then if you do really well on the online test, they ask you for an audition, and you've got to go to wherever they're having their audition near you. And then if you do well on that audition, then they ask you to be on the show.
Want to mention again, Lydia Harrison of Goshen was the female winner of the Tip Collie Awards, and good picture of her in the paper today. And, of course, a good picture of Mike Turk and speaking to the group. And then up top, I want to call him Troy Cable's own. Max Copeland was the male recipient of the J.O. Tip Collie Award. And I think there's a $1,500 scholarship that comes from the program itself. And then Troy University, if you go to Troy, the school, they're going to match it. If you go to Troy to school. So it'll be about a $3,000 scholarship for that young man who's going to walk on in football. He's a hard-nosed kid. You see it. He's got the frame. He's a pretty tall kid. And, he's the type kid that's got the kind of guts, excuse my language, G-U-T-H, the guts to do it.
What's he playing football?
He's a linebacker, but I can see him.
He might can develop and become a special teams player.
Exactly. That's exactly what I feel like. And I tell you what, he is a tough young man, and it's like joining the Marine Corps. When you go to play with Troy, you like he's joining the Marine Corps, and he's that type of kid.
I know we don't talk about it much, but the Golden State Warriors swept the Trailblazers last night 4-0. Of course, they did it without Kevin Durant, which is incredible. But the Warriors are the first team to go to 5 straight finals in a row since the 1966 Celtics. So, pretty amazing dynasty at Golden State.
Who is their best player?
Well, Steph Curry is probably their best player.
Steph Curry went to Davidson College.
Well, so it's probably Durant or Curry, but then they got Klay Thompson, who's a great player. They got Draymond Green. He's a great, kind of like Dennis Rodman kind of player.
Who's their coach, Mike?
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr, and Kerr was a pretty good player himself, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played on a lot of those Bulls championship teams.
They say Steph Curry could be a pro golfer one day.
He's a great athlete.
Yeah, Steve Kerr and Sean Elliott played on a team for Arizona that played Alabama and Wimp Sanderson's teams in the NCAA tournament, and Alabama just blew them out. I mean, that just tells you what kind of team that some of the players Wimp used to have at Alabama back during those Sweet 16 days.
Yeah. Like you said, the big game for Troy is against 3-seed Little Rock. Troy was a 6th seed. As good a record as they had conference play, Mike, They were still a 6th seed.
Well, they won a great record. They're 16 and 14. They lost a lot.
Well, they won more.
The biggest thing about Troy is it really is amazing they got to 16 and 14. They started conference play, which is unheard of for Troy, 0 and 5.
Yeah. But one thing they did do.
16 and 14, that's pretty good turnaround.
Well, one thing they did do, they won more series, best 2 out of 3. They won more than they have in a long time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Troy just would have won, gone 500 in midweek games. I mean, you'd be talking about a team that have about 35 wins right now.
No question. The last year I was telling you about being in Athens, Georgia, and watching that championships, NCAA playoffs.
Troy got to the
was in
finals,
it.
didn't they?
Yeah, oh yeah, and they were really good.
Georgia and Duke got to the finals, and Duke upset Georgia.
But Troy just rattled Duke the first game, and it was a couple of things that happened. One game that Troy was fit to play Georgia, and it was at 11 o'clock at night, and Georgia coach fooled around on purpose because he didn't want to play, and before long the announcement made that the curfew's up, you cannot play a game after a certain time, and we'll play in the morning. And we waited around for almost 2 hours.
Basically just waiting.
And we waited around almost 2 hours, and that coach did that on purpose, and that's probably why he was able to move forward, because their pitching wasn't there at the time, and then they were able to.
I'll make a prediction. The first Division I national championship Troy will win will be in baseball.
No question about it.
They'll at least get in the top 10 because they'll make it to the College World Series one day.
And there's so many good baseball teams
You've
out
already
there.
seen it. I mean, Coach from Carolina won the national championship. Louisiana Lafayette's been to Omaha. I mean, it can definitely happen in baseball easier than anything else.
Our cameras were on the square in downtown Troy yesterday afternoon around 4 o'clock, and the cheerleaders were there and all the fans were there, and I said, where are the players? In a minute, I see a fire truck, and all the players were on top of that fire truck, and they went around the square.
We will show it at 8:30.
All right, we're going to show it at 8:30. We're going to show that at 8:30. And then on down the line, we're going to be showing you the Tip Collie Awards in its entirety, too. So, again, and I interviewed Coach Alan Ponder, and what a great guy he is, and class guy. And Mike, you talking about a guy that looks the part of a hard-nosed coach. He does.
Boy, think about how depressed Morgan is right now. I mean, how many games have we said they won? 30 and 0. 30 and 0.
I'm gonna call him one morning, maybe as early as tomorrow morning. He's a great guy, their coach, and was impressive. I mean, that was a sharp-looking team, and he was a sharp-looking coach. And
you might want to give him a little bit more time.
And you know, Mike, and I'm walking up to him, and 2 of his coaches walked up and said, Mike Amos. And they knew me, but I'd never seen them before in my life. But they knew me for some reason. Maybe it's from officiating or whatever. But great, they're a great bunch of guys. Those Selma folks are.
Well, they got rattled when Pike LeBlanc pushed back against them. They weren't used to that.
Yeah.
And then Coach Ponder must have outmanaged that man.
Yeah.
He made some great coaching decisions.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, our team of the year, we just named it in my computer here. Our team of the year, Mike, comes from where? Titletown where?
Team of the year, Titletown where? What? You talking about
What school? Yeah, you hit it. What did you say?
G.W. Long?
G.W. Long. They won a state title.
In baseball and softball.
Well, I thought Brantley was Titletown.
No, well, they are, but this is another Titletown. Brantley's in 1A at Titletown, and they went. I tell you who must be awfully good is Mars Hill. They beat Brantley's girls and they beat Brantley's boys. And do some research on Mars Hill. Where does it come from?
I think we've done that before. They're somewhere up in North Alabama, aren't they?
And they're really good. And it's like a private school. It's called Mars Hill, and Mars Hill Bible is the name of it. And it's really a great program. And of course, Brantley ran into them, but Brantley still really had a great year. The boys and the girls played for the championship, and they lost it. But again, congratulations. But
So Brantley has won state championships in what? Football and softball and baseball and basketball.
Exactly. Over the years, especially in baseball.
Florence, Alabama.
They're in Florence, Alabama, and
the Quad Cities.
And buddy, you know they get good players up there. You know.
Yeah, they say Florence, Muscle Shoals area up there is growing like crazy.
And University of North Alabama program is going to get bigger, I would think, too.
Yeah, they're talking about building a new football stadium.
They need to, because you know what? For all these years, they've been using Prolly Stadium, or whatever you call it, is a high school stadium located where Coffee High School of Florence used to be. Now, Coffee's not there now. It's called
That's where
Florence
the Division II National Championship was forever?
That's right, forever. Brawley Stadium in Florence, Alabama, and it was right there on the river. It just had, but can you believe they used that high school stadium all those years? And
it's a pretty area.
Their problem
it held about 12,000.
Yeah, the problem with the University of North Alabama, they don't have any room, and everything they build now has got to be up.
Oh, okay.
And
so they still have that line on campus too. That's they have the enclosure for just kind of like the Bengal Tiger down at LSU.
After Willie Slater, that young man from Coffeyville, who was an All-American quarterback at Livingston, old Livingston College, he went to Troy, and Troy won a national championship in '84, and he was on Troy's staff and their offensive coordinator in '87. Then he went to UNA and won three straight
national championships under Bobby Wallace.
3 straight national championships under Bobby Wallace. That's 5, and he played on 1. That's 6. So all these championship rings, and he's been at Tuskegee ever since as the head coach, and has won all kinds of black college championships. The guy probably had more rings than any one coach around.
I got him beat. How many do you think Mal Moore has?
Mal Moore.
The Dozier Flash.
Well, he won one in '61. He won one in '65. They gave Alabama the national championship in '64, '65.
Both years.
'65 and '66.
'64 and '65.
Sorry, '64 and '65.
He was a coach on the '92 championship team.
Yep.
Yeah, the '92 championship
I guess
team.
what he got rings as athletic director on all of Saban's.
I'll cut to the chase since we're running out of time. Mal Moore has 10 national championship rings.
Isn't that something? And he's from Dozier, Alabama, and he's buried in Dozier. I bet a lot of people, and let's say this, that he's that well respected. I bet you a lot of people have driven down to Dozier to see where he was buried. Why did he decide? I know that's his home, but most of his family was from Tuscaloosa.
Must have been where his wife was buried, and so he
But no, it was where he was raised, though. See, he played quarterback for...
Well, I know he's from Dozier, but you're right. He lived in Tuscaloosa.
Dozier was the smallest high school in the state of Alabama.
Situation with Mal Moore's wife, too. Didn't she have horrible health issues for several years?
He went to her bedside every day and every night, and she had Alzheimer's for years.
I remember that.
And Johnny Williams, was working up there, and Johnny and Mal were good friends. He said Mal Moore is one of the nicest people that you'll ever find anywhere. And, that's where he was from, just a few miles from where we sit.
He was a teammate of Dad's. They signed the same year and would drive back and forth to Tuscaloosa together.
Right. Somebody, your daddy always told me that Mal had
a Notre Dame one year. I remember hearing stories about that.
Now, I will tell you a story. Your daddy, of course, your daddy and I were good friends, and he used to tell me a lot of stories. But Mal, he would ride to Luverne with Mal, and Mal would let him off Luverne, and he had to hitchhike the rest of the way. Mal wouldn't take him all the way to Troy. But, of course, what's the name of that little town that Mal was from?
Dozier.
Dozier, Alabama. And I'll tell you how bad it was at Dozier at one time. Now, people think I'm being facetious, but I want you to hear this. I've officiated a ball game at Dozier before where the lighting was so bad they had to park cars around the field. Now, hey, I was there. Cars around the field and turn your lights on so they could see the ball game.
A baseball game?
Football.
Football.
Did you know that?
No.
At football games, the lighting was that bad that they would actually, most of them were trucks, and they turned those lights on, and it made it brighter, you know.
Let me finish my Mal. You know, I'm doing a lot of research on this book I might write on Alabama football.
Yeah.
Mal Moore won one national championship as a player. It was 61 when my dad did. He won 6 as an assistant coach with Coach Bryant. That's 7. He won 1 as an assistant coach with Coach Stallings in 92. And then I guess that he leaves him with winning 2 or 3 as the athletic director.
Yeah.
He might have more than 10.
And you know he coached at Notre Dame. Did he win one at Notre Dame?
No, that he coached for, I think he coached for that Faust we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But he did coach at Notre Dame.
And he coached for the Cardinals.
To hear from Mal Moore, who chewed him out more, Gene Stallings or Bear Bryant?
Probably Gene Stallings. Gene Stallings was hey, I've talked to people that officiated for Gene Stallings, say he's one of the fine gentlemen in the world, but when the game started, his whole personality would change. He would call him everything. I mean, he was hard. He stayed on the official worse than anybody. Coach Bryant didn't stay on the official like Gene Stallings did. And he probably won a few games that way, too.
He was.
Boy, he was mean and rough.
He was a junction boy.
Yeah, he was the closest thing ever to Bear Bryant. Charlie Bradshaw.
For my
Charlie Bradshaw was.
He was Bear Bryant. You know, when I was born, Bear Bryant was. Shoot, I guess I was 7 when he passed away. So Stallings was, kind of the one I remember, a little bit better than Bryant. I mean, I even went to Alabama games and saw Bryant on the, kneeling against the goalpost for you. But Stallings, I love Stallings as a head coach.
And you know what?
Underrated as a head coach.
You know what? They did.
The reason he left because of that horrible athletic.
I fit to say. That was the craziest thing in the world. He would have coached another 10 years at Alabama. And he was disrespected. They disrespect one of the greatest coaches this AD did.
Yes,
and made his life miserable. And Stallings said, I don't have to put up with this.
He wasn't going to put up with it, no.
And then, of course, he left there. And I want to say he went back to the pros, did he?
No, I think he always wanted to coach again, but he never got.
But he loved Alabama. He played at Texas A&M, but he really loved Alabama. More than anything.
That's the reason DuBose got the job.
I don't think Stallings recommended.
He retired right before the Auburn-Alabama game. I'll never forget.
Oh, yeah, and Dubose had been the defensive coordinator 1 year. There was this huge fax campaign from the Alabama fan base that said, we got to have Dubose as the head coach. And, well, he had one good year, I'll say that.
That guy and 2 other people really made some boo-boos, and I want to hear about them in your book.
Oh, the biggest one was when they hired Bill Curry instead of Bobby Bowden.
Well, and instead of Bobby Bowden, they hired Bill Curry, but also to go with Perkins. I would have thought that
go with Stallings.
Stallings would have been the best pitch there.
I think the truth be told that the family wanted Coach Stallings. Coach Bryant wanted Coach Stallings, but he had this principle that he wasn't going to just tell the president who to hire.
Yeah.
So I think what they say is he recommended 3 people: Gene Stallings, Ray Perkins, and Richard Williamson as possibilities.
I remember Richard Williamson was from Fort Deposit, Alabama. You could write a book about these small towns.
Head coach of the Giants?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a good coach.
That was a pretty big hire to get the head coach from the Giants to be the head coach of Alabama.
In fact, as a player, he recruited me. He recruited the Troy team, and I sat on the bench right there. I sat on the bench at the North Carolina State game when Joe Namath tore his knee up.
Really?
I was on that bench there, and also I was on the bench.
You and Buck Corley, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was on the bench when listen to this. I was there when Spurrier missed the field goal in the last seconds of the ball game. I was there for that game. But as a recruit, he was in charge of our...
Who, Ray Perkins was?
No, not Perkins, but...
Williamson.
Oh,
Williamson. And, of course, Ken Meyer was also another guy that recruited me in high school. And he was a coach. You ever heard of that name, Ken Meyer?
I have, I think.
Yeah, he was a great recruiter. And he was from up north, but he recruited me, and then people don't realize that. You mean you were recruited by Alabama? That's a lie if I ever saw one. You know what, Mike? I haven't never made that very public, but I sat right there on the bench. So
with other recruits,
the recruits would let you sit.
There's a reason you won the Headhunter Award.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but I wasn't very big. That might have had a lot to do with it.
Well, Alabama didn't care about that, did they, under Coach Bryant?
But it was, hey, listen, back then they could sign as many players they wanted to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was an experience. My wife today, and Jacqueline Floyd went to the game with us. Bud Corley was recruited. Bud was a real good kicker. He could kick, and he also played.
I got to go on some of those recruiting trips because my friend Charles Bradshaw was recruited by Alabama and Auburn, so I got to go to some Auburn games and Alabama games as a friend of a recruit. I told y'all my story the other day of watching the running backs do the bull in the ring drill at Auburn. My memory of an Alabama game was being on the sidelines before a game and watching Jeremiah Castile do his defensive back drills. I had never seen somebody that could run backwards as fast as Jeremiah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you very much, Bill Rice Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, now get ready for the big day yesterday from downtown Troy as a celebration of back-to-back state championships at Pike Liberal Arts School. Hope you've enjoyed our show. See you tomorrow.
We're back on.
See y'all later.